From translation, NKJV New King James Version. This 92nd day of the year. Today we are reading passages 1 Samuel 21 to 24. 1 Samuel chapter 21, verses 1 to 15. Now David came to Nob, to Ahimelech the priest. And Ahimelech was afraid when he met David, and said to him, Why are you alone, and no one is with you? And David said to Ahimelech the priest, The king has ordered me on some business, and said to me, Do not let anyone know anything about the business on which I send you, or what I have commanded you. And I have directed my young men to such and such a place. Now therefore, what have you on hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or whatever can be found. And the priest answered David and said, There is no common bread on hand, but there is holy bread, if the young men have kept themselves from women. Then David answered the priest, and said to him, Truly, women have been kept from us about 3 days since I came out. And the vessels of the young men are holy, and the bread is in effect common, even though it was consecrated in the vessel this day. So the priest gave him holy bread, for there was no bread there but the showbread which had been taken from before the Lord, in order to put hot bread in its place on the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord. And his name was Doeg, an Edomite, the chief of the herdsmen who belonged to Saul. And David said to Ahimelech, Is there not here on hand a spear or a sword? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste. So the priest said, The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you killed in the valley of Elah, is here. It is wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there is no other here. And David said, There is none like it. Give it to me. Then David arose and fled that day from before Saul, and went to Achish the king of Gath. But the servants of Achish said to him, Is this not David the king of the land? Did they not sing of him to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. Now David took these words to heart, and was very much afraid of Achish the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them, and pretended to be insane in their hands, and scratched on the doors of the gate, and let his saliva fall on his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, Look, you see the man is insane. Why have you brought him to me? Have I need of madmen, that you have brought this fellow to play the madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house? 1 Samuel chapter 22, verses 1 to 32. David therefore departed from there, and escaped to the cave of Adullam. So when his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to him. And everyone who was in distress, everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented gathered to him, so he became captain over them. And there were about 400 men with him. Then David went from there to Mizpah of Moab, and he said to the king of Moab, Please let my father and mother come here with you, till I know what God will do for me. So he brought them before the king of Moab, and they dwelt with him all the time that David was in the stronghold. Now the prophet Gad said to David, Do not stay in the stronghold, depart and go into the land of Judah. So David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. When Saul was told, David is discovered at Naioth in Ramah, then Saul sent messengers to take David. And when they saw the group of prophets prophesying, with Samuel standing as their leader, the Spirit of God came upon the messengers of Saul, and they also prophesied. And when Saul sent messengers again the second time, and they prophesied also, then Saul sent messengers the third time, and they prophesied also. Then he himself went to Ramah, and came to the great well that is at Sechu. So he asked and said, Where are Samuel and David? And someone said, Indeed they are at Naioth in Ramah. So Saul went to Naioth in Ramah, and the Spirit of God was upon him also, and he went on and prophesied until he came to Naioth in Ramah. And he also stripped off his clothes, and prophesied before Samuel in like manner, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Thus it was said, Is Saul also among the prophets? Then David fled from Naioth in Ramah, and went and said to Jonathan, What have I done? What is my iniquity, or what is my sin before your father, that he seeks my life? And Jonathan said to him, By no means, you shall not die. Indeed, my father will do nothing, either great or small, that he has not told me. Why should my father hide this thing from me? It is not so. So David again swore to Jonathan, saying, As the Lord lives, and as your soul lives, there is but a step between me and death. Then Jonathan said to David, Whatever you yourself desire, I will do it for you. So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, Let the Lord require it at the hands of David's enemies. Now Jonathan went back to the city. Then Saul said to his servants who attended him, Now listen, you Benjamites. Will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards, and make you all captains of thousands and captains of hundreds, that all of you have conspired against me? No one tells me when my son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me, or tells me that my son has stirred up my servant against me, to lie in wait, as he does today. Then he said to Doeg the Edomite, Turn around and follow the servants of David. So Doeg the Edomite turned around and followed David. Now Saul said to Doeg, "Turn around and come against the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned and came against the priests. Then Saul said to Ahimelech the priest, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread and a sword, and inquired of God for him, that he should rise against me, to lie in wait as he does today?" Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, "And who is so faithful among all your servants as David, who is the king's son-in-law, who goes at your bidding, and is honored in your house? For did I begin to inquire of God for him today? Far be it from me, let not the king impute anything to his servant, nor to all the house of my father, for your servant knew nothing of all this, little or much." But the king said, "You shall surely die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." And the king said to the guards who stood about him, "Turn and kill the priests of the Lord, because their hand is with David, and because they knew that he fled and did not tell me." But the king's servants would not lift their hands to strike the priests of the Lord. Then the king said to Doeg, "Turn against you and kill the priests." And Doeg the Edomite turned and against the priests, and killed that day 85 men who wore the linen ephod. And Nob, the city of the priests, he struck with the edge of the sword, both men and women, children and nursing infants, oxen and donkeys and sheep, with the edge of the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. And Abiathar told David that Saul had killed the Lord's priests. So David said to Abiathar, "I knew that day, when Doeg the Edomite was there, that he would surely tell Saul, 'I have caused the death of all the persons of your father's house. Stay with me, do not fear. For he who seeks my life seeks your life, but you are safe with me.'" 1 Samuel chapter 23, verses 1 to 28. Then they told David, saying, "Look, the Philistines are fighting against Keilah, and they are robbing the threshing floors." Therefore David inquired of the Lord, saying, "Shall I go and attack these Philistines?" And the Lord said to David, "Go and attack the Philistines and save Keilah." But David's men said to him, "Look here, we are afraid in Judah. How much more then if we go to Keilah against the armies of the Philistines?" Then David inquired of the Lord again. And the Lord answered him and said, "Arise, go down to Keilah, for I will deliver the Philistines into your hand." And David and his men went to Keilah and fought with the Philistines, struck them with a mighty blow, and took away their livestock. So David saved the inhabitants of Keilah. Now it was told Saul that David had discovered Keilah, and Saul said, "God has delivered him into my hand, for he has shut himself in by entering a town that has gates and bars." Then Saul called all the people together to war, to go down to Keilah to besiege David and his men. When David knew that Saul had plotted evil against him, he said to Abiathar the priest, "Bring the ephod here." Then David said, "Lord God of Israel, your servant has certainly heard that Saul seeks to come to Keilah to destroy the city because of me. Will the men of Keilah deliver me into his hand? Will Saul come down, as your servant has heard? O Lord God of Israel, I pray, tell your servant." And the Lord said, "He will come down." Then David said, "Will the men of Keilah deliver me and my men into the hand of Saul?" And the Lord said, "They will deliver you." Then David and his men, about 600, arose and departed from Keilah, and they went wherever they could go. So it was told Saul that David had escaped from Keilah, and he ceased to go out. Then David stayed in strongholds in the wilderness, and remained in the mountains in the wilderness of Ziph. Saul sought him every day, but God did not deliver him into his hand, and David saw that Saul had come out to seek his life. While David was in the wilderness of Ziph, in a forest, Saul's son Jonathan went to David at Horsh and encouraged him in God. And Jonathan said to David, "Do not fear, for the hand of Saul my father shall not find you. You shall be king over Israel, and I shall be next to you. Even my father Saul knows that." So they made a covenant before the Lord. Then Jonathan went home, but David remained at Horsh. Now the Ziphites came up to Saul at Gibeah, saying, "Is David not hiding with us in strongholds in the hills, in the hill of Hachilah, which is on the south of Jeshimon? Now therefore, O king, come down according to all the desire of your soul to come down. And our part shall be to deliver him into the king's hand." Then Saul said, "Blessed are you of the Lord, for you have compassion on me. Please go, make sure further, and know his place, and who has seen him there, for I am told that he is very cunning. See therefore and take knowledge of all the lurking places where he hides, and come back to me with sure information. Then I will go with you, and if he is in the land, I will search him out among all the thousands of Judah." So they arose and went to Ziph before Saul. But David and his men were in the wilderness of Maon, in the plain on the south of Jeshimon. Now Saul and his men went to seek him. And David was told, and he went down to the rock, and stayed in the wilderness of Maon. And when Saul heard that, he pursued David in the wilderness of Maon. Saul and his men sought him every day. But God did not deliver him into the hand of Saul, so David and his men got away to the rock. Then Saul went on one side of the mountain, and David and his men on the other side of the mountain. And David made haste to get away from Saul, for Saul and his men were surrounding David and his men to capture them. But a messenger came to Saul, saying, "Hurry and come, for the Philistines have invaded the land." Therefore Saul returned from pursuing David, and went against the Philistines. So David went and stayed in the strongholds of En-gedi. 1 Samuel chapter 24, verses 1 to 22. Now it happened, when Saul had returned from pursuing the Philistines, that he was told, saying, "David is in the wilderness of En-gedi." Then Saul took 3,000 chosen men from all Israel, and went to seek David and his men on the rocks of the wild goats. So he came to the sheepfolds by the road, where there was a cave, and Saul went in to relieve himself. Now David and his men were staying in the inner recesses of the cave. Then the men of David said to him, "This is the day of which the Lord said to you, Behold, I will deliver your enemy into your hand, that you may do to him as it seems good to you." And David arose and secretly cut off a corner of Saul's robe. Afterward David's heart struck him, because he had cut off a corner of Saul's robe. And he said to his men, "Far be it from me because of the Lord, that I should do this thing to my master, the Lord's anointed, to stretch out my hand against him, seeing he is the anointed of the Lord." So David restrained his servants with these words, and did not allow them to rise against Saul. And Saul got up from the cave and went on his way. David also arose afterward, went out of the cave, and called out to Saul, saying, "My lord the king." And when Saul looked behind him, David stooped with his face to the earth and bowed down. And David said to Saul, "Why do you listen to the words of men who say, 'Indeed David seeks your harm'? Look, this day your eyes have seen that the Lord gave you today into my hand in the cave, and some urged me to kill you. But my eyes spared you, and I said, I will not stretch out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Moreover, my father, see. Yes, see the corner of your robe in my hand. For in that I cut off the corner of your robe, and did not kill you, know and see that there is neither evil nor rebellion in my hand, and I have not sinned against you. Yet you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between you and me, and may the Lord avenge me on you, but my hand shall not be against you. As the proverb of the ancients says, wickedness proceeds from the wicked, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? Whom do you pursue? A dead dog, a flea? Therefore let the Lord be judge, and judge between you and me, and see and plead my case, and deliver me out of your hand. So it was, when David had finished speaking these words to Saul, that Saul said, "Is this your voice, my son David?" And Saul lifted up his voice and wept. Then he said to David, "You are more righteous than I. For you have rewarded me with good, whereas I have rewarded you with evil. And you have shown this day that you have dealt well with me. For when the Lord delivered me into your hand, you did not kill me. For if a man finds his enemy, will he let him get away safely? Therefore may the Lord reward you with good for what you have done to me this day. And now I know indeed that you shall surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel shall be established in your hand. Therefore now swear to me by the Lord that you will not cut off my descendants after me, and that you will not destroy my name out of my father's house." So David made a covenant with Saul before the Lord. And Saul went home, but David and his men went up to the stronghold.